So I got to the point before that we were discussing about how we were on this level here, and before I go any further, I want to say that what I shared with you in the first session, in the first part, is those key bits of information that are just so important to understand how magnificent you are. Honestly. It is so important to understand how powerful and magnificent each and every one of us is, because we get downtrodden in our lives. What's continually being propagated on this planet is this notion that humanity needs mentoring, that we are no good, that we are children in comparative to galactic levels of communities, let alone cosmic communities. So it's your choice what you choose to accept as what reality is. We got to this point and we needed to then put the brakes on, because life here was going to be very different to anything we've experienced before. And that thick universal membrane there, that void is there because what goes on down here is, you could say, evil exists down here but doesn't exist up here. That's putting it bluntly and basically. Okay? The version of duality down here is vastly different. Here, everything is in oneness and harmony. Even though I said there's duality all the way up, and people have a problem with that because of their conditioning, they just don't understand light. Okay? If you're up at the light of God, it's light. It's frequency. Okay? It's light. It comes in many versions. So down here, the version of life is vastly different. And here, the only thing that occurs here, which you could term negative in any way, shape or form, is a difference of opinion. And nowhere near what we would call a difference of opinion. Because the moment anyone feels that difference of opinion in there, that means the law of attraction is already dragging them down into this part of the universe. The moment you start to have that happen here, that's right, you've got a difference of opinion. I wish you well on your journey. The knowing, it's not said, it's just a knowing straight away. Because you're already getting those charges happening in a more pronounced fashion. And there's beings who, before they come down here from up this realm, they start dabbling. They're the beings that we interact with, light beings from higher dimensions. Because they can't dabble down into here without being affected by universal consciousness. Let me explain it this way. If you have plus and minus, okay, it's like the scales of life, okay, positive and negative, the scales of balance. The moment you start dabbling down to those lower paradigms, you're either exploring this charge of life further or you're exploring that charge of life further. So you're creating an imbalance. You're already starting to create an imbalance. So if you come from the fifth dimension, you're up here and you start interacting with life down here, you're creating a more positive charge or negative charge, depending on what you're doing, on your soul. That means you're on your way down because you're creating imbalance. So if you have beings who are interacting and meditating, these wondrous beings of light, and they do like a healing or they provide information or whatever, then these beings here are starting to create an imbalance and they're on the way down. And that's what happens. It's like dipping your toe in to the pool before you're going to take a dive in. You're just getting a feel for it. And the more they interact, the quicker they go down. Because this is where the realm of unconditional love is. Unconditional love means you don't interfere. That's the ultimate definition of unconditional love. You just allow things to be. No conditions. You let things be. Universal law of non-interference. This is what we're discussing here. Because the moment you interfere, the moment you interact, whatever that paradigm is that you're interacting with, you're starting to get that frequency. You're starting to get that charge on your soul. You start throwing yourself out of balance one way or the other. Very, very important piece of information. Really helps you to understand when you're interacting with beings from higher levels what's going on here. They're already on their way in if they're interacting with you. Because all the beings of the true light and the beings of unconditional love, they just stand back and let life take its course. I remember dabbling. I remember having that charge happen. And I remember coming in. And what we have down in this realm, which I call the fourth dimension, in physical size, it's by far the biggest. Because we reach maximum expansion down through the universe in this domain here. It's massive. And all these different vibratory levels you see here, that's nowhere near enough. Do that times 100 at least. Okay? You just got to understand how many frequencies and overtones there are in that fourth dimensional paradigm. An incredible amount. And what happens is, because of that, when there's beings down here, when they look up, there's beings up at the top end of this structure. They look like angels, ascended masters, gods. This is something very, very, very important to understand. Just how big this paradigm is and just how caught beings and races are in this paradigm. Because when you're down here and you look up, there's beings up here that have angelic hierarchies, hierarchies of ascended masters, and all sorts of spiritual hierarchies going on. There are beings, look, you've got to understand we're talking about a universe, and we're talking about universal evolution over eons and eons and eons of time. It is very important to understand just how powerful some of these beings have become. We're talking about universal life. We're talking about cosmic life. Expand your awareness. Start realizing they have been manipulating life for a very, very, very long time. Billions of years. Imagine what they've learned over billions of years of manipulating other life forms. So please understand what we're talking about here. I acknowledge them and I respect them, because I respect, you've got to give credit where it's due. And they're genius. We're talking about genius here. I mean, this is all they do. They go and they present themselves to planetary populations and they manipulate them and they control them. And they've been doing this for eons of time. I've gone through the 4D New Age paradigm. I've come out of it. I stood up in 2004 and said, I'm a member of the Galactic Federation of Light. You can see for yourselves my videos on the internet. Because when I got back from that journey in 2003, they manipulated me. They went to town on me because all of a sudden in the matrix, I stuck out like a beacon because my frequency changed so much. You know, it's like that thing pop up and you hit it with a hammer to bash it back down. It's that kind of, I can use that as a metaphor, you know? That's what they wanted to do to me. But I wouldn't play their game, so they went to town on me, getting abducted 2 to 3 times a week, memory screenings, brainwashing programs, highly sophisticated ones, highly sophisticated. Because I've had the shadow government versions where they pump you full of drugs and brainwash you with their programs. I've been through that. And I'm very vigilant within myself. Because people say, you know, maybe you're still being manipulated, George. Well, they're trying it on me all the time. I'm very well aware which thoughts are mine and which ones aren't. And don't think you're any different, because no one in here in this room is immune from that. When you really look at your mind, and you really look at your mind in a day, which thoughts are yours, which ones aren't, we'll get into that later. Because I'm telling you, it's frightening for some people to realise that their mind is not even theirs. And I'm not making this up. It's just whether people have the strength, internal strength, to admit that that's happening to them or not. It's understanding what the mind matrix is all about, that we're inside of. So, here we have all these beings here playing gods. One of them, I'll categorically say, is called Jehovah. He resides here. And I know, because I took this journey. I know where he lives. I know where he resides. Down here. He's a 4D entity playing God. And I'll stand up and I'll say it all around the world, because that's fact. That's universal truth. They feed off worship. That's how they become empowered. They enslave races because they want to access life force. That is the key commodity. Forget minerals like gold or anything like that. That's for very low vibrational races who are interested in those sort of things. Then you go to technology. How can technology be used to control and manipulate life? Then you get to life force. How do you control life to manipulate life, to gain power through that life? Genetics are the #1 commodity in the cosmos for those who are into commodities. I'm not. I'm just sharing with you the beings who are into control and manipulation and controlling collectives, economic collectives and paradigms of control. Our genetics are the most prized possession in the universe because of who and what we are, and I'm going to get to that. So understand what these beings want. When we worship them, when we pray to them, they've never ever been fed so much power, ever, in the universe. So here we have this incredible paradigm called the 4D paradigm. And the New Age at the moment on this planet is full of entities and beings and ET races, because you've got to understand thousands of ET races have been assimilated into these paradigms. We're talking about vibrational paradigms. Here we have a planetary paradigm. This reality vibrates a particular level. When I got taken to Mars, that planet vibrated at a different level. When I was standing on the surface of that planet, I didn't like it. And for those who are new to this, we've got 1 million people there already. Nothing new behind the scenes. Don't forget, you're being treated like mushrooms. Kept in the dark, fed bullshit. I'm telling you the truth here. This is not a made-up story. So many people who work in these black ops are coming out talking about what's going on Mars. It's just a shock to mental paradigms who are not used to this kind of information. And you're probably thinking, well, wouldn't we hear about it? Of course you wouldn't. Do you know what's going on in the world of ballerinas? Who's doing what gig where? You don't, because you don't put your attention there. You don't put your awareness there. Do you know who the latest recruits are for Manchester United? No, because you don't put your awareness there. So if you put your awareness to these sorts of issues, you're going to find out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. I got taken there, and there's a whole lot going on Mars which people aren't aware of. That's why the notion that a probe being sent to Mars is the forefront of human evolution, it's the biggest joke going around. It's the biggest joke going around. And you've got to understand the technologies and all the crafts that are available to hide in other frequencies. Our eyes can only see a tiny little spectrum of reality. And then you go to the infrared reality. I mean, buy infrared night vision goggles and look up at the night sky. Go for it. And you can see it's like peak hour out there. They're expensive though, but lots of people have done that. And you can see them flying around in the infrared spectrum. So we've come down through all these different dimensions, explored every single possibility and outcome. Maximum expansion. What are we doing now? We're bringing it together. We're bringing it together. Because if you want to now become a universal creator of light, you need to reintegrate all your fragmented self, states of self, and you need to then take all that knowledge and wisdom that you've gained through all of those experiences and reintegrate them. So I'll stand here before you now and I'm going to tell you I have been the most evil of evil that has ever existed. The most evil thing you could possibly imagine, I have been that. And I have been the most loving and the most caring and the most compassionate and the most empathetic being that has ever existed. I've been that too, and I've done that too. Because I have been everything that this universe has to offer. So have any of you been evil? If you can't go there, then you better think again. Why can't I go there? Why can't I see myself as being evil? Because you've done it in this lifetime, for starters. So get over your self-righteousness. Please, start being realistic. Okay? Address your egos and say, crikey, why can't I admit to doing wrong things to people? Because it's impossible to exist in this reality and be totally good all the time. It just doesn't work. At some stage in your life, you've done something that hasn't been right. You might not acknowledge it or recognise it, but one day you'll see what it's like for the person on the receiving end of you. One day soon we're all going to be experiencing. Like when the veil lifts, I'm going to feel everything each one of you are feeling now. And you're going to feel me experiencing you from up here. So much to talk about today, my goodness. Okay. So when I've said that we are galaxies, that we are universes, that we are galaxies and we are planets and we are stars, please understand, next time you entertain the idea and the concept of oneness, contemplate how integrated we are. We are so one. We are so integrated. I'm inside each and every one of you. I'm inside of you. As you're a universe, I'm inside of you, and to me you're God in that universe. I'm inside of you as a galaxy. Not only as a being incarnate on a planetary system, but I'm a star in your galaxy. You're a star in my galaxy. I'm a planet in your galaxies. I'm inside of you as a planet. I'm inside of you as a star. And I may have multiple incarnational aspects incarnated on your planetary systems inside your galaxies. Isn't that amazing? When you really, really start to feel that, to understand that. Because we get this thing, oh, we're all one, it's all beautiful, isn't it great? What level are you processing that on? Because if you only keep it on this level, then you're no greater than the collective, like a beehive or an ant's nest. They're all one. Right? Let's go deep. Let's go expansive. Let's go both ways and really look at life and its actual construct. I mean, crikey, we are so integrated. We're all inside one another in so many different forms. Wow, we're all one. Whew, that is awesome. And so once we got to this maximum expansion, let's bring it back together. So how's that process going to be? Because how is it we found ourselves on planet Earth at this time? This is where this is leading to. This is, who are we all? Where do we come from? What are we doing here? So I've explained as far as my awareness can where we've come from and who and what we are. Now I'm getting to what planet Earth is all about and what the human race is all about. I want you to have a look at that. To understand that concept is so important, because if you really want to get why we're all here and what humanity is all about, this is a very, very important ingredient. Because This overcomes the internal divide. Because all we do is judge ourselves and beat ourselves up. So I want you to know just how perfect you all are right now. As you are right now. You don't have to become like a priest or a monk or anything in order to be spiritual, in order to ascend. You don't have to be any of that. All you've got to do is be you. Mother Earth, how is it we found ourselves right here on this planet? Why is it we're here? And why are we in these male-female forms having this incredible experience? Just a few more quick images of the cosmos there, just for the expansion of our awareness.